If you have a Stream Deck, supercharge it with APIs. Let's talk about it. Hi everyone and welcome to the channel. Today's video is actually by request. Portrait of a Lion watched one of my videos I had about Stream Decks and how I use APIs with my DAC board, as well as URL callbacks for some other shortcuts, and wanted to know more about APIs and Stream Decks without all the DAC board stuff in it. Well, no problem. Today we're going to talk about a Stream Deck plugin called API Request. It's available in the Stream Deck Marketplace, and I've got a link to it down below. If you're new to Stream Decks or thinking about getting one, they're great. I've got some videos on them on my channel. These devices sit on your desk and basically give you programmable buttons that you can trigger a bunch of different actions when you press them. And you're not just limited to the number of physical buttons. You can have pages of buttons programmed for various actions, like an API call. I started with an MK2 that has 15 buttons on it, upgraded to an XL with 32 buttons, and now I've added a Stream Deck Plus. But if you're looking to get one of these, I would definitely recommend the XL if you have the room, or the MK2 for a more compact setup. Even though you can go different page by page on an MK2, it's nice having a lot of buttons that you don't have to like skip pages for. Alright, so let's talk about API calls and how you can use them on a Stream Deck. For today's project, I'm going to use my Stream Deck, the API Request plugin, an app called Postman, and an API. Let's jump into it. Alright, let's look at how we program a button on the Stream Deck, specifically with an API call. So I've got my Stream Deck here. I also have Postman up on my screen. And the button we're going to be using today is this one on the top right. This is a really simple API call. I like going out and finding different ways, different free APIs that I can practice with and use. This particular one is a very simple API. You can see it up on the screen here. I actually use my Stream Deck to use Presentify, and that's what I just pressed on the button on the bottom left there. But this particular API is a yes/no API, and I've got it there on Postman. Postman is an application you can use. There's a web version of this as well. I'm running it on as an application on my Mac, but you can run this on the web. There's also a couple other web-based API tools out there that are good to play around with. And basically this lets me test the API and see what's happening with it. In this particular case, I am calling this URL and I'm doing a GET request. And what this does is it returns a yes or no answer every time I run it. So if I run this API right now, I'm going to hit send and it's going to give me a yes. If I run it again, it's going to give me yes again, yes, and it's just going to give me random yes, no results. It actually will give you an image as well, which is interesting. So if you want to use this for something else, it's not really going to work for what we're doing today, but it actually will give you a GIF and it'll take you to this site and it'll give you like an animated response to go along with the yes, no that it returns. So anyway, let's jump back here. How this relates to the button itself is I've got this programmed on top with a plugin that I downloaded from Stream Deck. And if I press this button, it's giving me a yes. If I keep pressing it, now I've got a no. And it's basically doing the API call that you're seeing on in Postman. So let's see how we program that. Okay, I'm going to switch over to Stream Deck right now. So I've got that configuration up on my screen. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this blank button that's here on the top row. This is the Stream Deck configuration screen. I'm going to take this blank button and we're going to basically replicate what I've got for the yes, no here. So let's look and see what we've got programmed on the yes, no already. So if I click on this button, the configuration is down below. I've got the title, yes, no. I have the option to show that or hide that right there. So I could take that away and the button will just be a thumbs up or thumbs down. The URL that I'm using for the API request, the method in which I'm using to get the yes, no response is a GET. And you'll see some other API type calls that can be made here. The content type is going to be a JSON result. There's no authorization for this, so there's no token or username and password. This is just a free open API that's going to return a yes/no answer for me. And then if I scroll down again, I could have a green success indicator to let me know if the API call worked. And what that does is if I check it, and now if I hit the button, it's going to show me the checkbox there to let me know that the API did work. So I'm going to leave that unchecked. And then what happens is this particular plugin, it's either going to have a matched or an unmatched response. So when and the way this API will work is there is a path that I'm looking for. So what I want to do is trigger an image to respond whether it's yes or no. And that path is answer. And where that is coming from is right here. So the API call happens, and then answer is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this particular response, either yes or no. So let's switch back over here. So answer is what I'm looking for, and then the expected value I'm looking for is yes. And when I match to the yes, I'm going to get a thumbs up image. When I don't match to yes, I'm going to get a thumbs down image. So that's basically what it is. It's a pretty simple plugin. You can kind of start to think of how you could use this to do different things or trigger different responses when you press this button. I was trying to find just a really simple API that was a good kind of starter, and just to kind of show you how this plugin works. And then at the bottom there is the ability to periodically pull a URL for status. So if I check that box, then I'm going to get some more options of how frequently I want to pull the URL. So I'm going to uncheck that there. So let's go back. I'm going to copy this here, and then let's program this on this button here. So on the right hand side, I'm going to scroll down to find my API request. There it is. So if I drag and drop this over, you'll see that the button is right there. I've got the title. Let's just put yes, no. I'm going to paste the URL I had before. It's a GET. The content type is going to be application JSON. The request body, I'm going to set the button image when it's pressed. Scroll down a little bit more. The path is the answer. My expected value is going to be yes. And then when it's matched, I'm going to bring up a list of some animations that I have. Now, I will tell you, I've tried GIF files, and those don't seem to work for this particular plugin. So I would go with something that's just a flat image. So I'm going to choose the thumbs up. I'm going to open this. And then my unmatched, when it's no, I'm going to go down and pick thumbs down. Okay, so now I've got this button pressed, or this button programmed. When I press this button, I get a thumbs no. Press it again, there's a yes. That's a no. So you can see how that button can be programmed with an API request. Now, next time we'll look at doing something with a shortcut. So if you're a Mac user and you're using Apple shortcuts, we can use a different plugin called Shortcuts that will actually trigger a shortcut on a button, and that shortcut can consist of an API, and we can go a little more complex in how we program this button. I hope that gave you a better understanding of how an API call works and how you can program a button on your Stream Deck with some advanced functionality. Next time, I think we'll take a look at another plugin for triggering an Apple shortcut on a button, so look for that video soon. As always, I'd love to see your comments below. How are you using your Stream Deck today? Did this video help you? If you're using API calls for other things, I'd love to hear about it. Thanks again for watching, everyone, and we'll talk soon.